All right, what do we have this week? We have the Southern Pines 9-hole cup, and they've got new pin placement. So I went to a Tommy site, but they don't have he doesn't have holes up yet. So I'm using Bubba's. I think these are all at Southern Pines, so hopefully they're in the same order. I think some of these holes were redesigned, not just new pin placement, but I think there's a couple holes in Southern Pines that were redesigned, so hopefully it follows the same path, but just different pin placement. So let's go see where the pin placements are. This should be hole number 1. So let's check it out. Let's check it out. All right, there's several ways we can play this. Get my pin where I can grab it. So normally, trying to get up into this range, and you've got to chip up. Now the green, we draw the green out here. There's a ridge on the green, and everything falls off on this side, and it's flat over here. So we'll have to see. And the pin was back here in the back on the flat. If it was me and I was redesigning the pin placement, I would put the pin placement so that it's on the hill and it'd make it super tough. But it seems like when they move these pins, they just put them in easier spots, like putting it in the front on the flat instead of on the slope. It'd be nice if they put them in a tougher spot so that they could do like opening round on the easier side and then the weekend round on the tougher side, but I'm not exactly sure what their thought process is. Everybody's lucky that I'm not putting the pin placements out there, because I would find the worst freaking spot, and that's where the pin placement would be. So you can lay it up out here and you got a straight up shot. So if you got lower developed stuff, or if the wind is like we getting dew head wind and you don't have a ball inventory to get you over here, you can just lay it up. There is a shot, and I'm not sure, like you can go from here and try and spread this gap and end up, you need to get out from behind those trees, and you can end up over here and you've got a shot from here. Or you can go straight at it. So we'll see which way the wind's blowing. Which way the wind is blowing. I'm going to take my number 1 bag, and I'm going to use a Titan on most of the holes today. We'll try them out with just the Power 3 ball. I think there's one hole in Southern Pines that it is worth bringing out a bigger ball, but I think most of the holes in Southern Pine you can play with just the Power 3. I think there's a really big par 5 that you can do a max overpower hook shot on. You can take a regular shot on it, but a max overpower hook shot works really, really well. Hopefully everybody had a good tournament last week. The Kings Park tournament. I shot a winning score, and so did Dunner. I think we both ended up with 31s. Those were like winning scores based off of what we'd seen during the week, but unfortunately we both got somebody in our bracket that shot a spectacular round. I think he came in second, and the person that beat him shot a 33, he shot a 31, I shot a 31, and I got beat by a 34. Great round. I don't know who those people were, but that was a great round. Great round. So if you can get over into this area, if you can muscle your way over with a Power 3 ball, this wind, the way that the wind's been working when we have dew headwind like this, is it's been like almost twice as much. So even though I've got 2 rings there, that'd be 4-2. I think it'll be iffy if I can make it over, but that's really the kind of the way to go. And hitting it 70 rings great to the right's not going to help me. Even if I do make it over, I'm probably going to end up in the rough. Nice. So on my notes, hole number 1, extra mile. Power 3 ball. Up to Power 4, depending on which way the wind's blowing or how big the wind is. You may need to bring out a little bit bigger ball if you want to go straight at it. It seems like there's a slight adjustment here, but and they have redesigned this hole. They've put those sand traps. This is there is a max overpower hook shot you can do on this hole from over here that I was practicing with my big topper, and you can get up. I don't know that you can get any closer than you can if you just hit it on the side that I hit it on, hit it to the right, but there is a shot that you can take from over there. There he is. Eking it out. Might have, no, I think I think they'll be fine with the trees. Now, it does seem like there was an adjustment here, like maybe plus 10 divided by or times 3.8. 8. There's max. There's min. There's mid. Mid grizzly is 1.0. So it'll be 4.2 rings. What's up, baby? 4.2 rings. Oh, ain't great. Great! No, it's not great. Perfect would have been pretty damn close. And that was with a 10% adjustment. Plus 10 at mid. And then grizzly. My notes for grizzly say 0.9. If the wind's over 2 miles an hour, it's minus 0.1. At mid club, it is 1.0 plus 0.1. And at minimum, it is 1.3 minus 0.1. Got some notes. The main thing when you're taking, if you're taking notes, the very first round that you go out there, it's really not that important that we work out all the details to the cup. Because what you're really trying to figure out the first day is just what clubs do I need to get me to the spot? Like, where am I going to be hitting from? Because you can go, wow, I got all those numbers, but you know, like, how easy is it going to be to get back to that same spot? So, like, are you hitting the tournament we just had? There was a couple holes in that tournament that every single time I took the shot to the cup, I was in a totally different spot. I was in the rough, or I was in the sand, or I was in the clear, or I had to do a rough bump. And the drive was so inconsistent. And part of it was me just going for it every single time instead of laying it up so that I had a consistent shot. So trying to figure out day number one when you're taking notes, your first goal is just to establish what clubs you need to get you to the spot. And then once you've established what it's going to take to get you to the spot, then you can really start focusing on that money shot to try and get it in the hole. Hole number 2. Hole number 2. I'm not sure that I really noticed that big of a difference on the pin placement on that one. All right. So I'm curious to see where they put the pin on this. They probably are going to put it over here, or they're going to put it over here in this corner. We'll see. There is a rough bump that you can do here, and it is thin, real thin. And if I remember correctly, to get in that distance up there, depending on what ball you bring, it could be in your driver range. And actually, I was playing back in the day when we actually had to pay to play each hole, and somebody was going to win a chest, and we'd get shootouts, which I forfeited a lot of the shootouts in the tournament, but I kind of liked the fact that they were there, because if you really needed to practice a hole, you could practice it. But every time I got this hole in a tournament, I would practice the rough bump. And there is a rough bump that you can do here, but man, it is narrow. And the thing about these types of rough bumps is the sand does distort your rings, if I remember correctly, on this hole. So if the wind's blowing from any direction that's on this side of the plane, you'll be able to pull it out and not involve the sand. But if the wind's blowing from any direction on this side of the plane, so if you have tailwind, any kind of tailwind, even side with just a little bit, you could end up having to pull over the sand. And so be aware of that. And this, like we talk about G-string rough bumps, this is a narrow rough bump. And my buddy Hammer and Hank, he had a shot from over here that he had it figured out. I mean, it was figured out. I've made a lot of hole-in-ones from over here, but it's not one of those things where I made them all the time. It was just I've made a lot because I played this hole a ton of times. This hole was always a maybe hole. So let's see. Let's go look at it. We'll take a quasar just because we might. If I'm going to take a katana. Because if I play from the left, side spin definitely will help. We'll stick with the same bag. Bag number 1. Bag number 1. The distance bag. If I ever get my APOC to level 7, it will become hole number 1. That'll be the day that I get an APOC 7 will probably be the last day I ever play a extra mile. It'd be sad. Extra mile is, there's several clubs that will stay in your bag forever. I mean, like, we're not married to clubs, so don't be afraid to switch up clubs as you get your clubs in higher levels. But an extra mile is going to stay in your bag for a long, long time. Big Dog's going to stay in your bag for a long time. Until you can get your Cataclysm to level 6. Or, excuse me. Yeah, cat. See, that is a narrow. I mean, we're talking about, look at how narrow that is. And it's possible. It's possible. Did they move the freaking? We could do a backspin shot if we brought out a... we could get a little bit more on there. So it's 2.8. 2.8. I'm going to do 10%. So I'm going to do like 3.1. We'll see if that works. 3.1. Hitting it perfect. I don't know that we've been able to do a backspin shot on here in the past. Definitely pushed it down. Would have had to do a bigger adjustment on that, maybe 20. The one thing, this is one of those holes that if you come out here, some stuff that's different. In that pin placement, we can definitely get a little bit better read. Some of the things that are different is, number 1, ball inventory. So like if you got a 4 side spin or a 5 side spin ball, before, if you wanted to come at it from the left, like where my opponent's at, with 3 side spin, you could only get just so much around the bend. But now with a 4 side spin or a 5 side spin ball, you might be able to get up there closer to the green where you don't have to, because we're not getting our tail all the way down to the cup. We're kind of having to extrapolate where it's going to roll out when it comes down that hill. But with a bigger side spin ball, you could get up a little bit closer and apply all that side spin. You might be able to keep your ball guide all the way to the cup and get a really good read at it. I'm not sure that pin placement's that much different than the old one, but I might like it better. I'm not as sure if it's as true today as it was in the past, but in the past, whenever they would dick around with one of these par 3s, they'd change some stuff on it. These par 3s are quite a bit different because on a lot of the holes, what they've done is it used to be like, here's the green and here's where the flagpole was, and it was kind of in a bowl before, and now it's on a mound. So when you're coming up to it, if you're off in trajectory even just a little teeny bit, it'll push the ball off in one direction or the other. Or it's tiered, and they've put a lot more terrain on the course, on the greens, than were there originally. Originally they were just flat, and now they've got all this terrain. They look exactly the same, but they're definitely different. So what I was talking about there is, you can see where the flag was there. I think now it's like maybe over into this area a little bit more, a little bit farther back. But if you're over on this side and you're using a 3 side spin ball, there's only so much you can get. But if you can get up into this front zone and you're using, this is one of the things of, if you put on backspin, the more backspin you put on, especially if you start putting on some side spin. So if we put on backspin with right hand side spin, the more backspin we put on, the more it'll pull that ball to the right. And so if you come out into this area with a 4 or a 5 side spin ball and you start applying that backspin, you may be able to just get a run right up to the cup where it's at right now. Where it was in the past, you really couldn't, you couldn't get, even with a 4 or 5 side spin ball starting off right here, it would still be difficult. I mean, you'd pretty much have to have a Guardian or something that would have 100 backspin so that you could get there. But if you're over in this area now with like a 4 or a 5 side spin ball, you might be able to walk it over. So instead of starting so high on the hill and then your ball guide ends and then you kind of have to guess or extrapolate what the rollout's going to be, you might be able to, with a bigger side spin ball and backspin, get up closer and walk your ball guide all the way to the cup. Then you can really start to work on it. But there is a rough bump that's here. And that the rough bump is good. I mean, if you hit it and but you really got to know what your wind adjustment is if you're doing this rough bump, because it is thin, real thin, real thin. Hole number 3. Hole number 3. All right, this is I like the max overpower hook shot on this because you can get a little bit more, whip when you're doing the max overpower hook, but you can just go straight down the pike and you want to be as far down here as possible. And it seemed like we already played one where they moved the pins on this hole, because traditionally it was right dead center and it seemed like they moved it to one side or the other. But there's several ways that you can go at it if you get down into this zone. You can, if you get far enough down in here and you got a big enough ball, you can do a bounce and then kind of a bounce on this little teeny sliver and then try and woe it up, or almost do a sand bump to try and get it on the green to go for it. Traditionally on this, what I've done is bring out a bigger club and tried to come around this way, because the green is like this. And so if you land up here and you stay on the green, it's easy to roll off the green, because while it's real long, it's not very wide. And so it's easy, if you come up here with too much steam, you'll just roll off the backside and end up in the rough back here in the back. But if you can just catch the green, it'll roll it down a little bit and kind of split the difference to the cup. And you can come at it from that side and then get it in, because the whole goal here is that this can be a tough hole to eagle. It's easy to screw up on this hole. When we first started playing with low level stuff, you'd come out here and you could hit it over to this side right here, and you really don't have a shot. Now, that's changed because of ball inventory. Because in the past, like, you'd have to have the right kind of wind and you'd have to do an overpower to be able to catch a window over here so that you could try and drive it up to the green. But with 4 and 5 power balls, even against a slight headwind, you might be able to get over into this zone. Or with a topspin boost ball, you can start off here and then you can try and run it up to the cup and get short, so you have a short chip. But I think most people are going to play going straight down this fairway. Now, if you're doing the rough max overpower hook shot, I can't remember exactly where to start it off, but you're using this line, this transitional line here between the fairway and the rough. And when you get out here here's the thing. If you look at it, like, we draw this line right here, and let's say your red line with a 3 power ball is out in here, and you've got a 4 or 5 power ball, and now your red line's up here. The farther out you go, if you're using this transitional line, the more that angle's opening up. So if you're using a bigger power ball, let's say with a 3 power ball, I start off and I'm 1 ring away from the transitional mark. If I was using a 4 power ball, I'd want to be like maybe a ring and a half, maybe 2 rings. If I was with a 5 power ball, because I'm pushing farther forward in the shot, I'd want to be a couple rings, and this angle's opening up so that I can miss this. Because it's easy, and you'll know the first time. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because if you don't, if you can end up over here, but traditionally if you screw up, it's going to be here. You got a nice big ass fairway in front of you. We'll try it with a 3 power ball and see what kind of motion, how far we can get down there with a 3 power ball. But I think a 4 power ball will probably work better. But I think you can get it done with a 3 power ball. I've eagled this. I've been on in 2 with a Marlin, so you can get up there and get it done, and it'll definitely work better with a 3 side spin ball than a 2 side spin ball. But let's take a Titan, because it is the king of balls. That's right. That's right. I'm going to take this bag right here. Let's take that bag. Let's try that. Let's try it. And I did this max overpower hook shot for years with the extra mile, so I know you can get it done with an extra mile. I know you can. I know. I keep going in the wrong damn tournament. Rookie. Rookie! Hole number 3. Hole number 3. See if I can get... I bought one of the practice things, but of course you don't get one every time. You gotta... The 6-shooter may or may not go off. See if we can get it done. Get it done. Get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. Okay, and my Cataclysm, which I don't play with very often. Where is my Cataclysm? It's 1.7, 1.9, 2.2. It's arguably, it should be by the numbers 1.8, but I think Golf Class Notebook has it down at 1.7. And yes, you can go straight forward and just try and pound it out there. But I found that we get more whip. I think it was my ball guide right on the deal, but I'm going to come out. I'm going to leave a little teeny bit of an angle there. Take the wind out. 3-1. I need to turn my grid on. I think I got all of that. That looks like it's going right down the middle. And it's not a bad idea to end up a little bit on the shot that I've taken in the past. It's not a bad idea to be a little bit more on the right hand side, but where the pin is right there, it's on the left. It might be okay to be on the left hand side. Now, here's a word of wisdom. This is coach to player. The goal here, this is one of those holes that if you take 100 people and you gave them the best stuff out there and you said, go get an Albie, maybe one, I'll be generous and say 2 people get an Albie. But I'm going to bet that there's going to be 30% of the people, if not more, that don't get an eagle. So the goal on this hole is not Albie. The goal is to get an eagle. You can get ahead of 30+% of the people in your bracket by just getting an eagle. We don't have to get tricky here. The whole goal is to get an eagle. Would we like to get an Albie? Yeah, we'd like to get an Albie. But we don't need to get an Albie. And I think there is a sand bump here. Man, I fucking hate sand bumps. And a second bounce sand bump at that. Jeez, that blows. And that seems like way too much topspin. Like I'm going to end up in big. Yeah, I'm going to end up in big trouble if I do that. Let's just do the shot I normally do, because that'll get me up there. I'm going to have to take it, otherwise I'm going to run out of time. And just see if like hitting it over there and just ending up. Now I don't want to end up on the green, and I didn't want to end up in the rough. I was trying to end up in that rough area there so I could chip it on. That was a piss poor deal. I could do that a little bit better with a power 4-ball would help me, because I could have got closer to the sand so that I wouldn't have to use as much topspin to get over. And really, where I'd really like to end up is I don't really want to end up on the green. I just want to end up out there on the fairway so that I can chip it on. I should have waited on that, because we're just practicing, and that way I could have really taken a look at it instead of rushing the shot. This is what I'm talking about. And I would not want to end up on the green. That's going to be a shit putt. That's going to be a difficult putt. You do not want to end up. Look at all of the movement. Number one, yeah, look at all the movement that's in there. That's not going to be a fun putt. hell, it's not going to be a fun chip. Let's see if we can recover. In hole! Alright, the goal is eagle, but that is not the way to do it. That is not the way to do it. I think the way to play that hole is to go, just lay it up over there out in this area. We'll go back and look at the picture. See some things that we could do better on that hole with this pin placement. I like this pin placement. It's definitely changed the way because, and you can see what I was saying earlier about this being a very long green, but it's not very wide. It's easy to roll off, and obviously you can end up with some overpowered putts. Even if they'd hit that perfect, they wouldn't have had enough to get up that last little hill. And this was absolutely perfectly smooth going down. So it was just absolutely smooth going down, and you can see all of the movement there where there's a mound where the pin's at, and they've got all of this movement and stuff where this was just an absolutely smooth bowl. Let's go look at that hole. So setting it up out here, my red line, max overpower pull red line was out in here with a 3-power ball. So I was trying to be like one ring off of this area. It would have been a little bit easier to figure that out if I'd have had my grid on. Let's go turn my grid on. Let's go turn it on. Let's go turn the grid on. The test grid. Make sure I can move everything. So I tried to leave myself one ring out here, trying to extrapolate it out, and I ended up in this area right here. I had plenty of room away from this rough. This is the worry area, because when it comes around on the max overpower hook shot, your first bounce is in this area, and you don't want to get caught up. You want to get, if you can get a bounce in the fairway, even if you got a bounce right here and then you flew over this, you'll fly over it and miss it. But you don't want your first bounce to be in that. What I could have done is moved it this direction to the left, maybe a half a ring, maybe even put my ball guide directly on that with a 3-power ball, and have my ball guide right along it instead of being out, and tried to change my position from center to over here, because we definitely want to be on the left hand side. And so if you can get over just even a little bit more to the left, and where I was at with my red line being somewhere out in this range, let's say right there, it's pretty much dead center. With a 3-power ball and a cataclysm, my red line without doing any overpower was kind of like in this area. So if you get farther to the left, where you really want to be, if you're farther to the left, is with a bigger ball so that you can start off in front of this rough. So if you brought out a 4 or a 5-power ball, but that is drastically going to change where you start the shot off. Because if your max red line's here, but now all of a sudden you got a 5-power ball and your max red line's here, you're so much farther forward in your pull that if you started off in the same area, you're definitely going to end up in this. You're going to have to come out to the right in order to clear this, because you got more forward distance now. And you may end up being down in this range. One of those 3-power topspin boost balls might not be a bad choice on this, because it really doesn't change your setup, but you can eke out some more distance on the end. But if you're going to bring out a bigger ball will help you on the second shot, because you might be able to get in front of this peninsula and start off right here. Then you've got a lot of options. If you're still in a 3-power ball and you're starting off over in this range, really it doesn't matter if I was... The only thing that it would really kind of help me is if I was way over to the left. I might be able to start off on this side and then use my side spin to bring it around through this opening, as opposed to trying to negotiate with the sand. Because I really don't want to do that sand, a second bounce sand bump. That doesn't sound like any fun at all to me. If you're going to hit it on the side that I was at over here, like me and my opponent both did, obviously, based off what my opponent did, is you do not want to get on. You want to just end up right here. Then you have a short chip to get over with the pin being in this spot. That's not going to be... I think really, if we want to do a short chip, no matter what, we want to try and end ourselves up over in this area. Even if you're off like this far, I think you've got a pretty nice little chip that you can do. Obviously, if you can get closer, it's even better. But we do have some options there. Let's think about that. So trying to eke ourselves maybe a little bit more to the left. But if we brought out a bigger ball, trying to get in front of that zone. But from where I was at with a 3-power ball, unless I got more forward distance, which I should be able to get with a 4-power ball. A 4-power ball might be perfect, like a 4-4-4. A great utility ball. If we can get just a little teeny bit more distance here, that's going to help us out here because we're only going to have 2. We're going to have more distance here, and we're going to have a bigger hitting ball where we can get in front of this. Then we could start off on the left-hand side as far as we can, use all of the side spin to try and bring us around so that we don't have to negotiate the sand at all. So on my notes here, I'm going to write extra mile. I'm going to try that with a 4-power ball. I think a 4-power ball will help us on both ends. And we might be able to, depending on where we can get down there, we probably still have to bring out like a big dog or a cataclysm, but we might be able to, if we can get way down in there, we might be able to do it with a sniper. And the whole goal here is eagle. All right, team? Our goal is eagle. If you go out there and you go for it and you're like, I'm going for that Albie, and you end up in the rough or you end up in the sand or you end up in some shit, I want you to smack yourself up beside the head because the whole goal was eagle. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to get the eagle on this hole, and we want to be in the bracket, part of the bracket that gets it. That's a shot that we picked up just by playing minimum score. We played minimum score. We got our eagle. That's what we needed to get. And 30+% of the bracket didn't get the eagle. We just got a shot up on everybody, and all we did was our job. All right. Enough of that. Hole number 4. There's a lot of different ways you can play this hole. And this hole has stymied me for... It just always seems like the shot to the cup. And I'm actually... There's probably not another hole in this course that has a new pin placement that I would be more excited about than this one, because the old pin placement just fucking blew. It just seemed like you could come out here. I've made a lot of eagles on this hole, but you could come out here and you got it all nailed in, and it's -5 or it's +5 or it's +10, and you do the thing and it's like, okay, I did +10 and I should have did -5. So you do -5 and you should have did +5, and then you do 0 and you should have did +10. And then you did +10 and you should have did -10. It's just always fucking off. It just seems like, and I have, okay, so you think, well, if you're hitting it from the same spot every time, no, I've tried this from every spot that you can think of out here, because there are a ton of different shots that you can do. You can lay it up, and there's a rough bump that you can do right there. Okay, you can lay it up here and do the rough bump. If you get in front of this shadow, and you have a 3-power ball, you can get in short iron range, and you don't have to do the rough bump at all. You can do the rough bump. You can do the rough bump from up here, but you can also just come right at it. You can also go at it, if you bring out a big enough ball and you got the right wind, you can come at it from this way, and then you're out in the clear and you're just looking at the hole. Now, the closest that I've ever gotten up here is like up into these shadows, like right up in this area. I've ended up in this rough quite a few times trying to work my way around the bend to get it up there. The topspin boost ball might help a little bit to try and make up that distance, but really in order to clear the trees, and you got a very small lane to get through here. And if your trajectory's off just a little bit, you'll end up drifting off into the rough on the backside. There's a lot of different ways that you can play it. If you got lower developed stuff, just lay it up and go for it. We'll have to see if the rough bump is still there. This hole, they've redesigned, like the course isn't that much different, but the pin up here by the green, this originally was one sand trap, and it was so damn steep that if you ended up in the sand trap, you couldn't hit it over the top. You were so close you couldn't hit it over the top. You had to hit it off to the side and then hit it back forward again. And there wasn't, these rough bumps weren't here. And if they were the smallest G-string rough bumps in the game. And when they redesigned it and they split it up into 3 different sand traps, they added a little bit of there's a little bit of a shot right here, and it's not flat. It's not one of these really steep rough bumps, but it's not an absolutely flat rough bump either. It's kind of in between, so it can take an irregular bounce coming out of it. Where I normally like to hit is to try and hit in front of the shadows and get on my short iron, because then you have options. So if they move the pin over to the right-hand side, we're going to be able to go at it with our short iron. If they moved it more to the left or more to the front, we may still be able to do the rough bump, and the short iron will work good. The shot coming over to here is really kind of wind dependent. You really want a day when there's tailwind or a pure side wind, so it's not affecting your ball, and you can get what your ball comes out, what it's showing. It's easy to over pull it. Like if you got a day where there's tailwind and you're thinking, wow, I'm going to be able to do it, you got to watch out down here that you don't, put all the wind back in and then overshoot it and end up getting caught in the rough right here and not even making it over. I'm going to do the shot coming this way with a Kingmaker and try and get in front, or with a Titan and try and get in front of that shadow. That's the goal. That, my friends, is the goal. And it'll restart. Restart. Let's take an APOC and a Titan. Seen a trend? APOC. Titan. Titan. The king of balls. Yeah. All right, hole number 4. Hole number 4. And I could tell you that you need to do a +5 or a -5, or I have no freaking clue what we should do to the hole. So what I'm going to do is just a straight up shot, and we'll see where we're at. Theoretically, if the game was right on the, when we say elevation, it's not really elevation, it's just some fucking adjustment. But the way it should be is if you hit to the left-hand side, the green is higher than wherever you're at. It doesn't matter where you're at on the left-hand side, the green is higher. It should be a minus. You should be taking wind off. It should be -5, -10, -7.5, minus something. I'm going to do white ring off the fringe, or the rough on the left-hand side. 2.7. 2.7. I'm going to add on 10%, and that's 3. So it's 1.5 per ring. Getting it perfect. We'll see if I left myself enough room to go straight, or if I hit it too long. There you go. There you go. They were always like, well, you're trying to go to the right. Why are you moving it more to the left? I'm trying to give myself, I'm using max crawl. I'm a big fan on drives. I understand that sometimes we just use a little bit of curl, like for flavor. We want the ball to go to the right. We just don't want it to go all the way to the right. We want it to go to the right. So if you put on just a little bit of curl, just a little, and you hit a one ring grate to the left, that little bit of curl that you put on to the right will make the ball go to the right, even if you hit the ball to the left. Okay, the first bounce may be to the left, but everything after that's going to continue to go to the right. So, but if you're doing a shot where you got a lot of curl, I always find it's better to do max curl. And where you can get into trouble if you're doing max curl on shots, you got to leave yourself enough room for the curl to become effective. And that pin place doesn't look like it's any different than where it was before. There's max. And you see where it's not absolutely it's not a super hilly rough bump, but it's not a flat rough bump either. I don't know if I like any of those. Let's put on max topspin and see, like, is there a spot where it'll run up there, or is it just going to dick around with me in every spot? Man, I'm not doing a shot where I'm a quarter of a ring off. There's just no way. I'm not sure I like that spot. I think I would almost rather, with that pin placement, either bring out a different short iron that's got more topspin. It's one of those areas where you're gonna hit a spot where it's too much topspin and it's not enough topspin. It's too much topspin, it's not enough topspin. And typically in those areas is like if you're 2 rings off the transition between the rough and the fringe, or in this case the fairway, you could pull it back to 3, and sometimes that'll straighten it out. Or you got to go, you got to move it to the left or the right to get it on a different angle. But that spot right there, I'm not sure where that pin placement's at. I think coming at it like my opponent is and playing it to the right so that we can come straight at the cup is going to be a much better deal. Okay, there's max club. So what do you got here? 2.9 divided by 1.1. It's 263. .263, and that's just a straight up shot, not adding or taking anything off. 2.6. There's 2.6. And if I was going to hit it great one way or the other, that was the side, but it's not good hitting it great. Perfect would have been pretty damn close. Pretty close. Pretty close. I'm almost thinking that is we probably want to play that on the right hand side, and I'm not. The problem with the right hand side is you really have to you're going to have to pull out the right ball for the wind that you're getting that day. There's just no two ways around it. That'll be a hole right there. That this is another. I'm the coach. Monday practice, especially if you only have one account. Just go out there on Monday and tank all your, go out there. If you don't end up in the right spot, chip it over to the spot that you wanted to hit to, so that you can really kind of take a look at it from that spot. Because sometimes we work our asses off. Right here is a prime example. I worked pretty hard to get myself out into this area, and I was 5 rings off of this rough over here with my Apocalypse. I'm pointing out in this direction, but I'm figuring that how much curl that I have. If I'd have started off over here closer and I put on all that curl, I would have ended up in the trees. So if I wanted to start off on this side right here, I would have had to put on like half curl or 1/3 curl. And it's always hard to go, okay, hey, this time it was perfect and I had 1/3 curl, perfect. And the next time you put on 1/3 and some, and now it's not perfect anymore. It's easier to do big curl shots if you're doing either no curl or max curl. Like here's our ball guide, and there's a lot of times where I'll pull back and I'm at a slight angle. And what I was talking about earlier is like, let's say you're trying to hit out to this spot, and I put on just a little teeny bit of left-hand curl. It's not a lot, but just a little. So you're looking at, I'm like centered up with the outside edge of my ring that's on here. And I put on that much curl, and I hit a great to the right. My first bounce hits to the right, but the ball, when it came out, was going in this direction. So it's still going to go to the left. And I'm still going to end up like where I end up out here. I'm still going to end up on the left-hand side. Whereas if you didn't put that curl on, you hit here, and now you're getting farther and farther away. And it's 1 bounce, 1 ring off on the first bounce. It's 2 rings off on the second bounce. It's 3 rings off on the third bounce. Now you're way the hell off trajectory. Whereas if you put the curl on there, you're pretty much 1 ring off the whole way through, even though you hit it great. So we almost always use I very seldom ever hit a straight shot with my driver. I've always got some kind of curl because I'm always trying to go in one direction or the other. But if you're doing a max curl shot, either, in this case, I left myself plenty of room so that my curl could become effective and try and keep me in the center of that fairway. But back on what we were talking about here. So I worked my ass off to get out into this spot, and that shot sucked. So I really think if you bring out a big enough ball so that you can start off over here on this side, And it'll have to be a max overpower shot and then try and get your run forward. It might not be a bad deal to bring out a ball that's got topspin boost, even like a 3-power topspin boost ball, and instead of doing any overpower, just hit it from right here and put your topspin on and end up in this area. Because if you end up in this area right here, this was short iron range. This is going to be long iron range. So you're going to have a straight up shot with your long iron where you can run it up to the cup. And all you have to do is just get out here by these trees. Obviously, the closer you are to this rough, it's better. So you don't necessarily have to come out here and do a blast shot from this side and take the risk of getting caught up. You could bounce it over from here and run your topspin up just to get you out into that zone. I think with the pin placements on there, the next time I play this hole, that's exactly how I play it, because I want to see what it looks. I think it's going to look better on the right-hand side. Like normally, where the normal pin placement is, I think I'm still going to play from over here, but I'm not going to be. I'm not worried about being a long iron range here. Now, the other thing that you could do is look where your first bounce was, and like I started off 5 rings off. You could bring that in as long as you're avoiding the sand. And I bled out to where I was about right there. We've got this much distance between the trees, so I could come in to the right and try and bleed my ball out into this zone, and that might give me a little bit more where I could start off and then use left-hand side spin and bring it back around to the cup and avoid that rough bump altogether. So there's another way that you could go, and you might be in a shorter club. That might be a way to look at it as well. All right. Next hole, hole number 5. Hole number 5. All right, there's a rough bump here. It seems like we already played these where they changed the pins. There's a rough bump on this one. And it is a beautiful rough bump. And it does seem to me that we were doing like plus 10 on it. And it's a beautiful rough bump. Beautiful. This hole has changed. There used to be an island out here. And when you do the bounce over the island and do the stuff, this hole looks totally different than it did to begin with. This was an actual pretty tough par 3 before, but they've made it, a lot of these holes that they've redesigned, they've made it harder to get a hole in one because some of them were pretty flat and or bold and it was easy to get a hole, but some of them this was a tough par 3, and now they've made it, in my opinion, easier. You can play from this side over here, but I'm never going to show you that. There's ways. I would rather go here and go down this hill. You can use the backboard and try and bring it back down to the cup and do backspin. This is another one of those holes you might be able to do a max backspin shot and try and dunk it. You might be able to keep it on there with a Guardian. But I'm going to do the rough bump. The rough bump. The rough bump. And I keep sitting there talking about the hole. Yes, Dale Appleby, I spent 15 minutes talking about that par 3. For those of you that watch my buddy Dale, he always gives me shit on those par 3s. Like, nobody else can spend 30 minutes talking about a par 3. I can. And I will. Practice. Practice. And I think you can get this done with, pretty sure you can get it done with just a navigator. Pretty sure. Pretty sure. We'll try it. If we can't, we'll have to switch. We'll have to up it. And I am going to do a 10%. I know there's a little bit of an adjustment here. I'm not sure if it's 10%, but I know that there is a little bit of an adjustment we need to do. It might be 5, it might be 15, it might be 12.5. But there's something. And it's not much. Before they changed this, if you hit off the island out there, it was a freaking cap island. And it was one of those things, if you hit it dead center in the middle, it went where you wanted it to go. If you hit it anywhere other than dead center in the middle, it went to the left or it went to the right. It was dangerous. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. And that max club. I got enough spin. .4. It's 484. 484. If I add on 10%. There's 4. There's 7.5. There's 8.4. Exactly. Oh, fuck. That was 75 rings great to the left. That was every bit of 2 rings straight to the left. Every bit. I guess it would help if I put my perfect glasses on. My perfect glasses are the same frames as my other glasses, and I have a hard time sometimes figuring out which ones are which. Did I have my perfect glasses on? I think I did. I do now. Even if I didn't before, I do now. I have 3 pairs of glasses and they all have the same frames. I got a pair of sunglasses and a pair of distance bifocals, and I got a pair of glasses that I wear just for playing Golf Clash. And they're all Ray-Ban frames. I'm going to hedge my bet. I can hit a great to the right or a perfect and it'll go in. But not a great to the left. That rough bump still works. A 2-side spin ball would have worked better there. I would have had a little bit more options. The 1-side spin ball forces you to be in one area. The more side spin, you can work out. You could work out wind. Let's go look at that. Let's go look at that hole. So the pin is now like over in this area. So depending on how much side spin you bring on your ball, you can, if you have a ball that's got more side spin and the wind was blowing in this direction, you could try and pull yourself over a little bit so that the wind now, where you're pulling over the rough instead of having to pull over the sand. I don't know that sand really distorts the rings that much, but it does give you some options so that you can try and get at the right angle so that you could pull over the sand and you could just add on more side spin. But I think the rough up there is still the way to go. You can just bounce it up there and try and use the hill, or you can just try and run it up to the cup and get out into this zone and just try and run it up. This area over here is spectators, so do not hit over here because there's spectators over here, and if you hit into those spectators, they're going to get all pissed off at you. Because nobody hits over to that side. Nobody. No one. Hole number 6. Hole number 6. Yeah, this hole is totally different. I like the original hole better. The original hole, I mean, they don't even look like the same hole. They're not even, the original hole here was pretty awesome. And the new pin placement on this one, it seems to me, is more down into this zone. It's more open on this side. There's a bunch of different ways that you can go at this. You can do a max overpower hook shot. Where you want to be is you draw this lane right here between these trees. You want to be somewhere in this zone. I mean, this is your target zone. Or you want to be in front of those trees. And it ain't easy to get in front of those trees. The last time we were playing here, I was trying to get in front of those trees. You can take this with a rock and a freaking quasar. So, or katana. And you can do a rough bump out of this rough, and then you can do a max overpower hook shot where you hit this rough and bleed out, and you just end up in that zone. Hitting from over here and trying to get over the deal, you really need a topspin boost ball. Because if you, obviously it's shorter here so that you can get your bounces to come out, but then you're behind the tree. So if you're looking at that, you really want to come out so that you're coming out into this range right here, and you've lengthened it out. So if we draw the line, you know, you've got this much more distance in the rough. So a topspin boost ball will definitely help, because you can run that topspin out and try and stay on this line to try and get out into here, and you got a really nice shot coming out, especially with the new pin placement. I think we still have a rough bump that we can do here. You'll be in sniper range. I think you might be kind of, depending on what ball you bring out, you might be kind of in between clubs, depending on where you hit it. Now, if you're not wanting to mess around with these trees, you can hit it down into here. But if you're going to hit it down into here, and you got a pretty straight shot coming up at it. It's not a great shot, but it's a pretty easy layup. Get on the green, get your eagle, move on to the next hole. You got to get this shot down here, and you cannot screw this up. You can recover from a lot of different places down here. Even if you're behind the trees, you may not have a shot at it, but you can still get it over here where you can recover and you can move along. Little doggy. But if you screw this layup shot up down here at the bottom, you're in big trouble. Big trouble. Big. I'm unsure how I want to play it. I was trying, I think we have played these with the new pin placements. I was trying to get like way the hell down in here. Let me think. And you can see the smoke. I don't know if you've got an APOC. I'm not even sure you have to do the max overpower hook. You might just be able to do a max curl shot. Let's try the max curl shot. Let's see what it looks like with an APOC and just do a max curl shot. If you're doing the max overpower hook shot, you're gonna have to practice with your clubs because you can bring out a rock and you don't have to hit it with a big ball. You can hit it with a quasar or a freaking katana. You don't have to bring out something big. And there is a tree. I'll show you where that tree is. And you want to aim right at that tree, right dead center at it the first time, and then see where you're coming out. And we'll switch that up to a Titan. I'm going to try and get way in the hell down to the end. All right, I'll just lay it up. All right, I won't go for it. I'll just lay it up. Damn it, I keep going to the wrong one. But I'm pretty sure you can do this with a rock. Pretty sure. I think you can do it with a rock and a quasar. Rock and a quasar. That would be bag number 2. Bag number deuce. We'll just try the max overpower. I'll demo the max overpower hook shot. You can see. We'll see if we can end up in the right spot. I don't think you have to put on all the topspin either. This is definitely a hole you're going to want to practice because there's ways that you can go at it, and if you're trying to go in the middle of those trees to get into that lane, you're going to have to practice this with your clubs to see exactly what you need to do to get into that lane. Because if you overshoot that lane, you can, like I said, you can recover. But all you're going to be doing is recovering. There's a great Albie look at it if you can end up in that lane. My opponent's just going straight forward. Straight forward. I'm going to switch to my number. Oh, they did a hook. That was a no move hook. A no move hook. Let's switch to that bag. See this little red tree? You want to aim right at that little red tree. I don't think you have to put on a lot. I'm just going to put on 2 and 2. Move the wind out. It's 2 rings. Give or take. There's 2 rings. We'll see where that ends up. I could have put all the topspin in that spot with that club and ended up probably past the trees. Let's take that again. A little too far. Probably didn't need to put on any topspin and I would have been right in the middle of the lane. This is an opportunity to recover. I'm going to hit it to where we were trying to hit so you can see what the shot looks like. since we're practicing, what the heck? This is where it comes in fun when I'm practicing with Dunner, because Dunner will hit where he wants and I'll hit where I want, and then we can see what the shot looks like from there. Sometimes you're working your ass off to try and get into a spot, and then you hit the ball over to that spot and you're like, wow, I was working really hard to get into this spot. This spot sucks. Let's quit doing that. I'm not sure I want to recover from there, but I think you can. I think I could recover from there, and with the Goliath I could still get it up. Let's see, can I get it in the hole? Do I have a run? .6 times 1.1 equals 5 by 1.9. 1.5. Wow, I still got a shot. I still got a shot at it. Hitting it perfect. Little teeny bit of an overpull. And I did a 10% there, and that was probably the overpull. That was risky, because if you don't hit that shot perfect, you see how close it was to that tree. If you hit anything to the left, you're going to tag that tree and be in the shit. But there are ways to recover from over on that side. All right. This is a hole that you're going to have to practice with your clubs, because I don't care what anybody in any video out there or any YouTuber tells you. Like, this is how you play it. This is how they played it with their clubs. If you have exactly the same clubs as them, and you have exactly the same ball inventory, then yeah, you could probably play it exactly that way. But more than likely, if you don't have exactly that stuff, you're going to have to go out and practice it with what you have. And you do not need to bring out a 3 power ball. That's why that shot was way off. Well, I used a nav. You don't have to bring out a big ball here. This is one of the cool things about this hole, is you don't have to bring out a big ball. And I think in the past I've hit this with my rock and not because I was like, my red line was way the hell up here. I think normally where my red line's here, and I'm looking at my ball guide where it intersects with that tree. You can see that little red tree, this little red tree right here. You're just pointing right at that tree, that's kind of your starting point for your hook. Where you really want to be is where you clip this rough and you just bleed out, because that puts you right in the lane. So if you can come through on this way and clip this rough, it'll bleed out and you're right in the middle of that lane, so that you have a great shot coming through it. And where I was at, like down in here, if I'd have ran all that topspin and where it came out, I very easily could have got all the way to the end, or at least past the trees, so that I would have had a straight up shot. I may not have a rough bump anymore. I'm kind of taking myself out of the range down here with no rough bump, but I'm putting myself in short iron, and I got a definitely a great shot with my short iron from down there. So there's a lot of different ways you can play it. The last time we played this tournament, I was really working on trying to get down here to the end, because I really felt like if we could get, and I think the last time we played these holes, they had new pin placements on them at that time. So I was trying to get past these trees to try and open it up to get that shot. So that's what I'm going to work on this week, is trying to get all the way to the end. That's what I'm going to work on. I think it's definitely possible. Definitely possible. All right. Hole number 7. I remember this hole. This hole has been totally redesigned as well. I know when this hole first came out, there was a max overpower hook shot that I was practicing on this with a big topper, trying to bring it around, trying to get through this gap, like right out into this zone right here. I know a lot of people are playing from this mound, just trying to get it onto this mound, because from here, depending on where the pin is, you've got a rough bump that you can do. You've got some options. You can start off on this side and try and run it up or backspin it. You do have some options, whereas if you hit it over here, you're looking at just a straight up shot. But it seemed, I mean, like if you're out here and you're in long iron, you're probably in long iron, and we draw an arc, you're definitely going to be in wood if you're out here. So you're going to need to make sure you've got the right stuff to get that done. I think coming around this bend, I wasn't able to get too far, kind of past where I wasn't able to get too much in front of that. Like I wasn't able to get like way down in here. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. And this might be another shot for a big tapa. Big tapa. Titan. Let's set up a big topper bag. Let's set up a big tapa. We'll try out the big tapa. One of the cool things about a big topper is it doesn't have as much distance. I'll grant you that, but it does have it pretty much starts off with lots of curl and lots of topspin. It's the utility driver. It's almost, if I'm playing one-on-one and I'm just out there playing one-on-one, it's always in my bag number 3. And it's always matched up with my big dog or Cataclysm. It's always matched up with a big hitting wood. And the thing about a big dog and a Cataclysm is they both also have lots of topspin and lots of curl. Where are they weak? They're weak in ball guide and they're weak in accuracy. Where is a big topper weak? Ball guide and accuracy. There's definitely a place in your bag for a big topper. If you're in a spot like this and you bring out your extra mile and you're hitting it with your extra mile, this is definitely better with a big topper because you have to pull back from the red line. If you're not doing overpower, you have to pull back from your red line and you're not using all of the power of your extra mile to begin with. And the big topper's got more topspin, so the big topper's going to be a better choice in a situation like this than any extra mile if you're hitting from that spot. And that's about what I thought. Just kind of right at the top of that. If I brought out a topspin boost ball, I could obviously get farther down in there, but I was pretty much right at the top of that sand trap. So you can see where they're at with the extra mile, and they're going to take this shot back here. They would be better off because they're not at their red line, and I know that the big topper doesn't hit as far, but you're not trying to hit your extra mile as far. So you would be better off bringing out your big topper because it has 100 backs or 100 topspin. And I don't care if you got an extra mile 9, it still doesn't have 100 topspin. So you'll be able to eke out more distance with the big tapa. And it's got more curl. Wow, look at that. Double, double. Kingfisher. There's max Kingfisher. There's min, there's mid. I'm eking towards that 3/4. So 3.9 divided by let's say 1.4, be like 2.8. There's 2.8. Getting it perfect. That was just I was kind of in between. Didn't quite pull it enough. I was in between max and mid, so I play mid at 1.6 and max is 1.1, so that'd be 2.7, and half of 2.7 is 1.4 roughly. So I played it kind of in between, but I probably would have been better off there playing it at, let's see, if I would have played minimum or maximum, that'd have been 3.5. Probably would have been better to do what I did and then add on like 0.1, 0.2, or add on like 10%. I didn't add on anything right there, so I would want to get either get a little bit farther so that I was due mid, and I could really work the number, or not get quite as far so that I was in real max. If you're using the app and you got a slider, that's where a slider will really help you. That's one way to play it. Hopefully everybody understands what I was talking about on there. I see people do that all the time with an extra mile. I can think of a lot of holes in the game where our red line, without doing any overpower, our red line's here. And they bring out an extra mile. Well, an extra mile's only got so much curl and it's only got so much topspin. And your big topper has more curl and more topspin at almost every level. So if you're pulling back from the red line anyways, and it's like, well, yeah, but your big topper doesn't hit as far. It doesn't need to hit as far because you just pulled your extra mile back from the red line, back into this zone so you could hit from here. Now you're in your big topper range. Yeah, if you tried to do a max overpower shot with your big topper, you're going to hit your red line right here instead of right here where you'd hit it with your extra mile, but it doesn't matter in this shot. We're in a better spot. We have more curl and more topspin, so you can net more distance. I mean, I was here and my opponent was here. It's not a lot, but I could have set that shot up a little bit better so that I was more in this angle right here. That was still pretty good being in short iron range, just using a big topper. So there's a lot of these holes. When we see these sometimes where we need to go max distance forward and you can't make it over to the other side. And so you're having to pull back and then you're still trying to get maximum distance on this side right here. Think big topper, because once you've pulled back from the red line, now you're starting to get into your big topper range. And sometimes you'll find that your big topper red line is right here. And I would rather give up this little bit of distance to get the extra 15 top spin, or depending on where your extra miles at, a lot more top spin. So when you're looking at that shot right there, if you're ever having to pull a shot back with your extra mile from the red line and take distance back because you can't get that far, start thinking about big topper. Big topper. Big topper. Hole number 8. Hole number 8. All right. There's a lot of different ways that you can play this hole. If I remember correctly, they moved the pin placement over into here. It seems like we already played these where they moved the pins. I'm not sure why Tommy's site isn't up with the new pin. It seems like they did move the pins. You can hit from here and try and come over and get at it. In the past, when the pin was back in here, there's several times, depending on the wind and what ball you bring out, where you can come on this side with a backspin club. You could bring out a Guardian, or you could bring out a Rocket, because a Rocket has a lot of backspin. And you could start off on this side and try and run it to the cup. You can also bring it over here, and this is kind of a max curl. It's a blind curl shot. I used to take this one in one-on-one all the time because I played this hole so much that depending on how the wind was, this shot always worked. But depending on which way the wind was blowing, this shot might have been difficult and this shot might not have been possible. But this shot from over here worked every time if you knew where to set it up for a blind curl shot. But there is a blind curl shot that you can take from the left. I'm not saying that it's a great shot, but there is a blind curl shot you can do. And with the pin placement where it is now, I think it's forward or it's up here on this hill. This shot's not as good because when the pin was way down here at the end, you could roll it down to the end. But where the new pin placement's at, I think it's more difficult. And I'm not sure that this shot works anymore. I think it's the shot from back here, bringing it around to try and get it up there. With the side spin balls that we have, there might be a shot from right here, which I don't think I've ever taken before. There might be a shot from right here where you can use your side spin to get it over. That might be worth looking at. Let's look at that. Let's look at it. I'm gonna bring a Quasar just so I'm gonna bring a Katana. Let's bring a Katana. And let's set up a bag just so we can look at our options. Rock. Guardian. Goliath, Kingfisher, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to bring that back right there. Those are clubs I don't play with all the time. I want to see... damn it. I keep going to the wrong one. I keep getting reminded that I got my ass kicked. All right. We'll have to watch an ad. Hold on. All right, we're back. That was 30 seconds of my life I will never get back. I'm not going to be worried about taking the shot to begin with. I'm just going to, we'll go out there and see what our options are. We will see. Southern Pines. Played this course so many times. Oh, that felt good. Oh my gosh. I need a cigarette now. Wow. That was awesome. Awesome. If I can get an opponent. Captain Cook. Captain. Captain Kirk goes first. Of course he does. He's Captain Kirk. Hammerhead. And they're doing the blind curl shot. Anytime you have to do curl going into a hole like this, your odds, like you might make it, but your odds of repeating that are pretty fucking grim. And where the old pin was is right about right there. I'm surprised we can't see the old hole. All right, so what are our options? We can do what my opponent did. We can hit from over here and try and bleed it up. Not sure from this spot. Yeah, it's putting us off at the wrong angle. You can try and get up. You can see there's a little teeny bit of a window right there. You can try and hit, but against headwind, it's not going to work. A 3-side spin ball is not being my friend. That's 2 rings off down there. That's kind of going towards the hole. Guardian. That'd be 3 rings if I just did a max pull. Out of time. Not worried about it. That's why we're practicing. We're trying to see like where we want to hit. I don't really like that spot down there. A 4-side spin ball would work better. We have plenty of room forward on our red line, but a 4-side spin ball might work better because we won't have to get so close on the left. And the closer we get to the left, it's making the... Let's see if I go this way. Trying to go down the hill. There might be a shot from over there that you can do. There might be I think a bigger side spin ball might help. Bigger side spin ball might help a bit. So we could get down into that zone. Man, we got bad angles no matter where we're doing down here. I'm just going to take it. I didn't work the wind out, so obviously that wasn't going to work, but my opponent's going to make their putt, so I needed to do something where they already made their putt. I'm not sure. That's a hole I definitely want to practice because I don't like the looks down there at all. I really think our options on that hole coming from this side over here, trying to get down into this pocket. It looked like there for a second, and I was trying to find the spot, but it wouldn't do it anymore, where my tail was bleeding down towards the cup being like right here, was bleeding down towards the cup, and I might be able to hit that hill and then roll it down to the cup. That might be a good spot. But with a 3-side spin ball, I'm still going off into this direction. With a 4-side spin ball or even a 5-side spin ball, I could really kind of work it more towards the cup. From this spot, if you're going out in this direction where the hole has been in the past, you got a pretty straight shot at it. But trying to bring it back around to here, now you're dealing with the curvature between the fringe and the fairway right here, and it's wanting to force the ball to go to the right, and you got to well, trying to pull it out from right here. Excuse me, not here, not there. Trying to pull it out from here. I was 2 rings off down here, which means any time that the wind is blowing from these directions where I have to pull over the sand, now I have to contend with the sand. I'd like to give myself a little bit more separation here. And but I think it'll take more side spin. If you had a bigger side spin ball, you could move it forward. Instead of being down here, you could be up here and of trying to apply your side spin so that you're dealing more with this area as opposed to dealing with this little fringe area. This is definitely a hole to practice right here. And this has been in the past one of those holes that when we think of par threes that get people in trouble, this is a par three that can get people in trouble. This is one of those par threes that you come out with the best of intentions and it eats your lunch because you end up in the sand. Or you end up blowing past it and you end up in the rough on the other side. So trying to figure out some way to do this, and I really think it's all about ball inventory. And if I will tell you once again, if I was the one that was helping develop these holes, I would be developing these holes so that they played to the strengths of the balls that we sell. And having a pin placement where, like, hey, if you can play this with a 2 or a 1 or a 3 side spin ball, but if you have a 4 or a 5 side spin ball, you have a market advantage. And I think this is one of those holes that if you had 4 side spin, you would have an advantage. And I think there's 2 ways to go at it, either from over here using the side spin, and it almost feels like this side right here is safer. Because if we've got, even with a 3 side spin ball, I think that there's a spot out here we can find where we can try and roll it down into the cup, as opposed to trying to play it from here and trying to deal with this. Because this kept changing the ball. I would move it a little bit to the left and it would come towards the cup. But then when I went to lengthen it out, it would pull it back to the right. I think this spot right out here actually might be the best spot. And I think if we had a 4 side spin ball, this spot would be even better. Better. What hole was that? Was that hole number 8? Was that hole number 8? Hole number 9. All right. All right, let me give you some words of advice. Power 5. Help yourself out. Now, if I remember correctly, where they moved the pin in an easier spot. But still, power 5. Let's help ourselves out here. Okay? This is almost, I have gotten an Albie on this hole. And I maybe 1, maybe 2. It's possible. And I've gotten a bunch of eagles on this hole with a Marlin. So it's possible to do it with a low par ball. But but I've also gotten a shitload of pars on this hole. And this hole, let's make this easy on ourselves. We're playing in tournaments. This isn't one-on-one. Hey, this isn't a tournament. And you need to get an eagle. You have to get an eagle on this hole. And this is a eagle hole with a birdie hole with an eagle opportunity. This isn't one of our normal par 5s where it's an Albie hole with an eagle hole with an Albie opportunity. There is a shot at Albie, but let's get the eagle. This is another one of those holes that, don't forget, there's going to be a huge percentage of the people during the week that are not going to get eagles. And this is another hole we can pick up 2 shots in this round if we just get eagles on these 2 par 5s, the first par 5 and this one. So getting out here as close as you can to the shadows, I think it's at 400 yards plus, and then taking the shot up. Now, before, I always did my second shot, I did a rough bump out of this rough and bled it up to the green, but I think the new pin placement is out in the open where you can run it up there. It might actually be, I still think that you need to bring out a big wood in order to make sure you get yourself up there. And I have tried, I don't know how many times, trying to hit over into here to get over, and that has not worked. But with the new pin placement, I don't know. I don't think it works, because I think you have to get way down into this area in order to have even enough distance to get over, even with a big ball. I'm not sure that it's a good deal. I might look at it this week just to look at it one more time. But traditionally, if you can get out here by these shadows at the 400 yard plus range, then you have a shot with your big dog Cataclysm. And if I remember correctly, on the drive it's like plus 10. And on the second shot there's also a plus. I think it's around plus 10 as well. All right. We took too much time. Extra mile. Oh, I think this might be another one of those holes you can use a big dog on, or a big topper on, because you can get more. I think a big topper is actually, like, that might be the bag once again. It might be. It might just be. I'm going to bring a 3 power ball just so I can show you that you can do it with a 3 power ball. But I do believe that it's easier to do this with a power 5 ball. Why fuck around? Especially, it's not about the first shot. The first shot you can get over with a 3 power ball. Hell, I think you can probably, if you get it right and you get the wind right, you can get it over with just about any ball. But it's the second shot that sucks. I'm going to set up, just in case that doesn't work, I'm going to set up a bag that's got a extra mile and a cataclysm, just in case. Just in case. Just in case. I'm going to take that bag to start off with. Big. I'm pretty sure an extra mile is the one we want to use here. It's probably going to be that number 4 bag. I think. Okay, hold on. I got to watch one more ad. 30 more seconds of my life. All right, that's another 30 minutes. I'm never going to go 30 seconds. It felt like 30 minutes that I'm never going to get back. Never. I'm pretty sure you want to hit this with a Berserker. Berserker works fine. You might actually do yourself a favor if you got a club that's got toss spin boost, or a ball that's got toss spin boost, a power 5 ball with toss spin boost, a power 3 with toss spin boost. Any ball that's got toss spin boost is going to help. But really, I think for the second shot, we need to get an eagle. It's important. It's important. They got a toss spin boost ball and an APOC 7. I'm envious. I would have started that ball way off to the left, so I had plenty of room to do a max overpower shot and all the curl, and tried to really maximize my distance getting out there, because it's super easy when you're going straight at a spot like that to, and that's going to be a nice shot. Very nice. Shit, that'll be 4 something. 417? 443. Fuck, that's way down there. That is way down there. This is what I'm talking about. Starting off over here so that you can try and really get a run at it. Two. Dose. It's a ringing a little. My only bad thing on this shot is if I left myself, if I didn't leave myself enough room, it might drift. I'll be lucky if that's 400. 407. You got to get into the 400-yard range. They'll have a nice shot. They'll be able to use a sniper from there. And the pin placement's opened up. It used to be hidden by that rough that's off to the left right there. And really the best way to get up there to get at it was to do a rough bump. It was dangerous, but that was the best way to kind of get a run at it if you were being risky and trying to go for Albie. Very nice. That'll be an eagle. What's the important thing on this hole? Eagle. Eagle. Give myself a little bit of room down here. It's 1.8 per ring. I'm gonna try and do 2 rings. I'm going to do just a little bit of overpower, and I'm going to lean to the right. And then I hit a great to the right, which is not good. Ooh, I can't believe I made that. I'm just trying to get up there in front. Nice chip on. So you can get eagles. My opponent's got a topspin boost ball. That helped. I could have brought out a bigger club and I would have got more distance on the drive, but you can get it done with a big tapa. Big tapa. APOP would have worked even better on that side where I was at over there trying to get maximum distance. That way you could do maximum overpower and then run all the curl. Oh, that missed. That missed. Wow, I can't believe that made it in. That means wind was not a factor. It looked like from that distance wind was going to be a factor. So that was a tougher eagle than what I would have liked. The two things that I would change on that is, number one, I would have hit that with my extra mile or my APOC. So my opponent came at it straight and went straight at it, and they were not quite at their red line, but they had a topspin boost ball, so they were able to run out all the topspin. I would have moved that shot over to this side, established where my maximum red line was, put maximum curl on it, and really tried to blast it out there. I think with that ball that they had, hell, there's a chance I could have ended up in the sand. I think it would have hit it that much farther by doing a max overpower shot with max curl and really trying to whip it down there. But in that situation right there where I was at, even doing a max overpower shot with my big topper, I would have been better off to use my extra mile. I could have got up a little bit farther. I can clear this gap, and I could have got closer to where my opponent was. This pin placement, being out here in the open, the key thing is being able to clear this peninsula with your second shot. So that's why I'm saying, if you bring out a bigger ball, let's say you don't get the distance. Like I was at 408 or 407 or somewhere in that neighborhood right there, and with a Cataclysm, barely had enough room to clear a headwind in order to get in front of this peninsula. And I really would have liked to have been more to the right. I was trying to keep it off to the left where I had a little bit of leeway. I would have liked to have been right in the middle so that I could have went straight at the cup, but I didn't have quite enough distance. So bringing out a bigger ball is not just going to help you on the drive. And the thing is if you bring out a bigger ball, you don't want to really do this shot here, because you're going to have to pull back from the red line, and then you're just going to run it forward. Where you want to be is off here to the left, and use your curl to bring it back to the fairway and try and get a run so that your run is going down through this way so you can pick up a little bit more distance. If you get it straight, you're going to hit the rough here or the sand, and you've left some on the table. So trying to get that curl down so that you're going through this gap. Then you can really, if you can end up in a pretty good spot down here where you can get into the sand, you probably can, especially on days when we don't have headwind, you probably can bring a sniper and really get a run at it. But I think in most cases, you're going to want to bring out your bigger hitting wood so that you can get in front of this zone and really get a run at the cup. But just remember, the goal is eagle. Okay? Would we like to get an Albie? Yes, but that's not our goal. If we get an Albie, hey, great, more power to you, but that was not our goal. If you come out here and do not get an eagle because you were going for Albie and you end up with a birdie, I want you once again, smack yourself up beside the head and go, what the hell was I thinking? All I needed to do is get an eagle, because this is another one of those holes that it's going to be like one or two. This is going to be a little bit easier because of the new pin placement. You know, I'm going to be generous and say 3 people out of 100 get an Albie. But, once again, there's going to be 30% or more who don't get an eagle. So if you can come out here on this hole and get an eagle, once again, you're up on 30 to 40% of the people in your bracket just by playing minimum score. Just by playing minimum score. And in a 9-hole cup, that's big, because anybody who drops a hole like this, there's no recovering. There's no backside to be able to recover, and there's no recovering when you miss a shot like that anyways, but there's really no recovery. There's no place to hide in a 9-hole cup. You've got to get the eagle. All right, there was a walkthrough of, that was not Bubba's 9-hole cup. That was the Southern Pines 9-hole cup. That was our walkthrough on it. Hope everybody has a great week. And there's a couple of the holes in there that I'm gonna go practice them, and I want to try out. So I'm gonna see if I can get together with Dunner maybe on Monday, or excuse me, today is Monday. Maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight, and see if we can practice. There's one of the par 3s on here. I really would like to practice that hole a few times and take out like a 4 or a 5-side spin ball and see what we can get done on it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.